Hey everybody, hope that you're doing very well. The point of this video is to teach you a few quick pointers on how to make your online focus group a complete and total success, which is something I never thought I would have said before the pandemic happened. So step one, making sure that you have your technology right. This is going to be the biggest hurdle for you to possibly overcome when conducting your online focus group. The things that you can control are your own technology. So number one, make sure that your internet is connected and has a good solid signal the moment that you start, because we all know things can happen, but this is something you absolutely need to make sure you have taken care of before you start your focus group. Beyond that, you need to make sure that your camera and audio settings are set up in a way that's going to be visually easy to distinguish and tell, and people are going to be able to hear you. Wear headphones if you can, and if you can't, make sure that you constantly mute your mic so that no people are over talking anyone else during this meeting. That's your side of things. The more complicated side of things is getting everyone else's technology up to par, because honestly, you don't have control over these things. Now, the wonderful thing is that the pandemic has actually kind of forced everyone to get really accustomed to online communication. So hopefully the barriers aren't going to be as big as they may have been before. But you want to make sure that you remind everybody before they come in that they need to have a functional microphone and preferably a functional webcam as well. Because if they don't, then they're not going to be able to fully participate in the focus group. And make sure to tell them to test these things before they actually get to the actual meeting. Now, another great thing about doing focus groups online is you're going to have access to more people than you typically would otherwise. So for instance, if you need to interview people in Columbus, if you need to interview people in LA, it's all basically the same format and same context. So no matter what you do, you have greater access to more people, and that's a great thing. But unfortunately too, the number of technical issues that we mentioned and all these other things might mean that when you recruit 10 people aren't going to actually be able to participate. So to combat that, what I would recommend doing is actually over-recruiting your focus groups. So if you have a minimum of maybe 8, try to recruit 12 people just in case. Assume that 4 are going to drop out. If you need 10, recruit up to 14. So this way, if you get 14, it's a pleasant accident. You know, if not everyone gets to share as much as they would normally, that's okay. I would rather have everyone kind of err on that side than not, because ultimately it's a numbers game, especially with focus groups and the richness of information. So you want to make sure you don't have a focus group of 2 people because of technical issues or other troubleshooting problems. So now that we've got the technical stuff out of the way, let's move on into talking about some of the actual tips and tricks that you can do to encourage engagement in your focus groups when running them online through Microsoft Teams. The first tip that I would give to everybody is you want to make sure you recommend that everyone turn on their video camera. Now, some people may be shy, some people may not want to do that, but really this helps encourage people to actually be actively participating in the meeting. Because ultimately, if they don't have their webcam on, they might be doing something like this in the background. And that is something you do not want, because they're not participating, right? They're not contributing to the conversation, and if so, they might as well have not even shown up. So, to encourage people to participate, we recommend that people turn on their webcams. Now, that doesn't mean you force people to turn on their webcams if they're actively engaging, or if they have technical issues, you kick them out of your focus group because they can't participate. Just make sure that you're encouraging everybody to do so and leave them on for the duration of the focus group. Next, to encourage engagement with your teams, we would recommend doing a couple of things a little bit differently than what you would normally do in a normal focus group setting. So in typical normal focus groups, you get to ask these big and broad questions like, how do you feel about the prices at Kroger? Someone might raise their hand, someone might have an opinion, but ultimately they might not have much to say. And what we found from doing various different research and teaching online classes is getting people to actually talk in these settings. When you ask them an open-ended question to everybody, people don't like to jump in, generally. Now, the people that do jump in are those talkative, to begin with, and that can help your conversation move along, but it can also encourage them to kind of dominate the whole conversation, which is something that you don't want to have happen. So our recommendation would be, instead of actually going out and asking these big, broad questions, asking a more pointed yes or no question and using the chat feature in Microsoft Teams to allow people to respond quickly with quick written answers, so that they're not over talking someone else, they're not gun shy to be the first person to talk. They'll actually respond, and you'll get everyone in your focus group to respond yes or no to something. Then what we would recommend doing is actually asking each person a pointed question. Now, maybe not each person, but asking, individual people who may not have talked or whose opinion was maybe different than other people, a follow-up question to that. So for instance, if you started off by asking something like, hey, do you think the prices at Kroger are too high in general? Yes or no? And then everyone fills out yes or no in the side chat there. And then you can actually ask them, okay, you said no. Explain why. And you can use their name, because the great thing is that everyone's names are listed on Microsoft Teams too, so you don't have to have those awkward name tents. So you can say, hey, Sally, you said no. Describe why. And you, Jonathan, why do you feel like they are too expensive? Explain why. This is great, right? This allows you to be able to kind of ask those initial front-end questions that people might be a little bit gun-shy to talk about, and then ask directed, pointed questions. Because one thing that we found is that people are much more likely to talk and explain themselves when you ask them specifically, that person, a direct question rather than a big open-ended question to everybody. So try your best to avoid the big open-ended questions to everybody. Ask pointed questions where they can respond in the chat function, and then you can ask follow-up questions to individual people from there and generate a conversation. Sometimes you'll even see sidebar conversations pop up, to which that's great, because if it's popping up in the chat, that means you can follow up with them once that person's done making their point. Next up, there's a few other techniques too that would be very helpful for doing an online focus group that are enabled in Microsoft Teams. Now, there are a couple different features in Microsoft Teams with how you can kind of present yourself. Obviously, we have the background masking, like you'll see here. We have different views too, like we have a gallery view, which I personally find a little awkward, but if it makes everyone feel like they're in the same space and it encourages conversation, because remember, that is what focus groups are supposed to do at the end of the day, is encourage conversation, then use any of these tools at your disposal. In addition to that too, we typically would do activities with our focus group participants as well, like card sorts and maybe even drawing pictures and things like that. You can try to replicate those here on Microsoft Teams as well, and they have a couple really good tools that can help you ultimately encourage a little different type of participation, a little more interactivity to help people feel a little more engaged with your focus group too. So with card sorts, one of the things that you could do is you could have people write up a card, and just like we would normally, so you say write 5 things down about what you're feeling about this, grab a post-it note, grab a piece of paper, grab a card, and have them hold it up and show you that on camera, which helps people feel like they're present in the same room as well. And sometimes if they're not willing to type in the chat, you, by having them do something different off the computer and then showing it on camera, can actually get people to participate a little bit better too as well. Now, from a drawing picture standpoint, there are tools in Microsoft Teams called the Microsoft Whiteboard. So all you have to do is click like you're going to share your screen, and then click on the Microsoft Whiteboard and allow everyone to be an editor. And from there, you can actually draw pictures. So for instance, if you want to have people draw a packaging design or a new store layout, or sometimes maybe just drawing a picture helps them explain what they're trying to get at a little bit better. Now, this is Microsoft Paint technology, so you're not going to get the best possible visual fidelity of art unless the person you're dealing with is an artist. But it can help them explain, their thinking to you a little bit better. And the great thing too is it saves it after the fact, so that you have a file that you can download after they're done drawing their picture. Another useful tool, especially for your note takers, is the live caption option. So all you would have to do is click on the 3 dots and then click the live caption option, and then you'll find that the focus group and Microsoft Teams are actually going to be transcribed for you in real time. Now, it's not perfect, but it can really help you a lot with remembering what people are saying and ultimately the type of discussion and tone that's going on during the different focus group, and help your note takers take much better notes at the end of the day too. Lastly, make sure that you're recording all of your focus groups, and make sure that all of your participants are informed ahead of time that you're going to be doing so and that they consent to you doing that as well. The great thing about recording focus groups is that you have this live recording that's done for you. You don't have to set up the camera, you don't have to set up all the other stuff in the room to get good quality audio. You just have a recording of the focus group, just as you saw it when you were running it on your computer. And that's a wonderful thing. In addition to that too, once the recording is done, and Microsoft will send you an email that the recording is done on Microsoft Stream, you click on that link and your full transcription of the interview and focus group are there as well. So not only can it do live transcription when you're running the focus group, once you've recorded it, it actually provides you a full transcription, which is pretty good, of the focus group in real time as well. And so it's a fantastic tool, again, for your note takers, again, for helping you recall what was talked about during the focus group, and something that, quite frankly, we weren't able to do when we were doing focus groups in person. So this is a great additional tool for the online environment. So those were our useful tips and tricks for running focus groups online. If you have any other suggestions, please send them to us, and we'll update this video to include additional ones. But until next time, I hope that you're all doing well. Good luck on running your online focus groups, and take care.